We Got a Chicken just doesn't quite have the same ring to it. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainly Movies. Today I'm going to be talking about the 2024 action thriller sequel, Twisters. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content, like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. All my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all of that extra content. Twisters stars Daisy Edgar-Jones, Glen Powell, and Anthony Ramos, and was directed by Lee Isaac Chung. It tells the story of competing storm-chasing teams as they attempt to monitor, study, and stop a dangerous tornado outbreak in Oklahoma. I'm a big proponent of context when it comes to reviews. I think it's way more informative to know where a reviewer's coming from than to just dive in without that knowledge. That way, even if you don't agree with somebody's take on a particular film, you have the information needed to apply that take to your own specific movie watching experience. So, some context. I love the original Twister. I saw that movie at the drive-in when I was 6 years old, and it made a huge impact on me. It was my first favorite grown-up movie, and remains one of my favorites to this day. Obviously, that meant that a sequel would have some pretty big shoes to fill, for me. But I had no delusions here, no expectation of even one full shoe. I was hopeful, but a little hesitant. So why am I telling you this? Because I know I'm going to be comparing Twisters to Twister. I always try to judge sequels based purely on their own merit, but with how much I love the original film, I just know it's going to be kind of impossible for me not to bring up Twister throughout this review. So, one of the golden rules of film criticism is that you can't knock a film for not meeting your specific expectations of it. A movie isn't inherently bad because it didn't do what you anticipated. And I'm not going to knock this film here for those reasons, but I will say that I was a bit surprised by what this movie did, and more precisely, didn't do. Twisters is a sequel. It's set in the same universe and clearly occurs after the first film. There are many similarities with the characters and plot, but this is very much a standalone sequel. There are next to no narrative connections to the original movie. There's one minor direct connection near the very beginning of the film that goes unexplained and will probably go unnoticed by many people, but that's it. Fan service is also very minimal here as well. There are a few repeated lines of dialogue, and a couple of the tornado scenes are slightly reminiscent of some of the more memorable ones in the original movie, but the connections and references are far more minimal than you'd probably expect in this situation. Like I said before, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Many people will probably praise this film for not relying on nostalgia or fan service or cameos, for instead existing as its own thing. Given that this is a sequel, I just anticipated more of a narrative connection. In fact, this feels less like a sequel to me and more like a completely separate film that was heavily inspired by Twister, getting an S slapped onto it to officially become part of the franchise. So, very different from what I expected, but I'm definitely interested in watching the film again with that no connection knowledge in the back of my mind, to see if it changes how the movie plays for me. So, there's no specific narrative connection here, but the story certainly feels quite familiar at points. It's got the scientific rivalry elements, the thematic issues regarding doing storm chasing for the science and to help people versus for the money and personal gain. It even pulls in the past tornado tragedy as motivation thing again. Those story elements all work here again for the most part, but the film introduces a new thrill-seeking element that feels at odds with the attempts at heart and humanity. It adds this blockbuster spectacle to everything, which is definitely exciting and exhilarating to watch, but it creates a strange dichotomy between the threat of actual devastation and loss and the gonzo tornado wrangling recklessness. The characters here can't hold a candle to those of the original film, but they're still among this film's stronger elements. As I said before, there's basically no narrative connection to the first movie here, and that includes character connections. But most of these Twisters characters have very obvious character analogs from the original movie. This doesn't really impact the film one way or the other as a fan of the first movie, and it's going to be something that largely goes unnoticed by casual fans or those unfamiliar with the original. The ragtag scientist element is sort of back in the form of Owen's crew, Unlike the crew in Twister, though, none of these characters really feel like they extend beyond the bounds of the film, but they've all got unique enough quirks to make them memorable, even if you don't know their names. We get another character here to direct tornado exposition towards, and once again, it works fairly well. Interestingly, this sequel introduces a third person to the lead duo. Anthony Ramos is fine in the role of Javi, but at times the character felt a little extraneous to the story. Now, obviously, we really can't compare Edgar-Jones and Powell to Hunt and Paxton. Their characters are essentially analogs of Joe and Bill, but Kate and Tyler do manage to carve their own path and exist as their own unique thing. Daisy Edgar-Jones has got that subdued, traumatized scientist thing that works pretty well here, but Powell blows in with his never-ending charisma to absolutely steal the show. Just like the original movie, Twisters is a summer action blockbuster, so we've got to talk about those blockbusting tornadoes. They were fine. They certainly work as entertaining popcorn action spectacle. Some of the tornado sequences were pretty intense, some of them were really cool, some offered unique and memorable moments, especially with the inclusion of the reckless tornado wrangling element. I definitely enjoyed the tornado stuff, so don't get me wrong. But for the most part, the tornado sequences felt like they lacked weight. Like I said, some were intense from an action standpoint, but they didn't have that fear-inducing thrill. The moments of post-tornado devastation were certainly impactful, but the tornadoes themselves didn't cause the awe-inspired, pulse-pounding excitement that the tornadoes of the first film did, and still do for me today. We could probably partially chalk that up to nostalgia, but there's something overly polished feeling about the tornadoes here. There's been nearly 30 years of technological advancements in visual effects and CGI, but I honestly think the tornadoes looked much better in the original movie. Far more cinematic and haunting and dangerous. I'm sure there were probably plenty of practical elements used here in this film too, and I can't wait to watch the special features when I get the Blu-ray, but the tornadoes all felt like very obvious CGI here. It was good CGI, they looked nice, but they never had that sense of palpable danger or tangible existence. Really, that was one of the big things I noticed about this movie overall. It didn't have the same energy or tangibility to it. Again, I know, I should be judging this film for its own merits and not be constantly comparing, but how can you follow up Twister without having those things? Twisters presents a more cowboy country energy and soundtrack compared to the first movie's rock and roll style, but this sequel has a much more polished feel to it with a very Hollywood movie sheen. Now, I wouldn't say that the first movie was gritty, but it definitely didn't have this glossy feel to it. That movie certainly was cheesy at times, but it felt more real and relatable. Again, I keep coming back to the word tangible. Additionally, I think the movie struggles a bit with its tonal blend. Tornadoes are a serious threat, but an action blockbuster like this really needs to have a sense of fun to it. That's not to say this movie takes itself deadly serious. It is fun at times and has some jokes and some funny interactions, but overall, the tone just isn't as entertaining. That blend of fun, thrills, and heart was a big part of what made Twister so strong, and combined with its excellent technical elements, it resulted in something truly special. It's obvious now that Twister was really lightning and tornadoes in a bottle. So at least on this first viewing, I wasn't blown away by this sequel, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't still have a very good time with it. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. Pro number one is the characters. This is a repeat pro for the franchise, but I will say that I still think this element was a bit stronger in the original movie than it is here. That said though, the characters are essential to this sequel's success. We've got another memorable group of storm chasers to root for, and this time we have arguably 3 leads rather than just 2. Javi offers up a slightly different type of character than we saw in the first film, which adds some new and interesting layers to the story. And then, of course, we've got our romantic leads, this time beginning the story as sort of rivals. Daisy Edgar-Jones is pretty strong here. I don't think this character is as well crafted as Joe was in the original movie, but Edgar-Jones is still able to inject that science-driven, trauma-motivated energy into the character. And then we've got Glen Powell. This man is charisma incarnate in every movie he's in, and this film is no different. Tyler Owens is a character that I really wanted to dislike initially. He's so obnoxious at first, but between the character arc and Powell's performance, he ends up being one of the major positive factors in this film. The second pro is the spectacle. Now, this is usually something that I can specifically attribute to some other element of a film. The visual effects, the sound effects, the grandiosity of the story or the action, but in this case, those individual elements are good, just not big standouts for me. And instead, it really is just that blockbuster spectacle that shines through for me. It's a really big movie. Not in terms of its story, not in terms of the themes or what it attempts to get at. Instead, it's just big from an action blockbuster standpoint. It's got the spectacle to keep you entertained and to keep you interested throughout the runtime. It might sound kind of simplistic, but spectacle is really helpful and important for a big summer blockbuster like this. On the con side, the biggest issue has got to be the visual effects. So, I want to preface this by saying that I don't think any of this looks bad. There have been huge advancements in CGI technology since the first film, and there are definitely moments in that first film that today, nearly 30 years later, look pretty poor, like the opening shot of the satellite, for instance. There's nothing like that in this film, but everything here just has a very glossy, homogenized modern CGI look to it. It lacks depth and weight and a tangible practicality. And even though some of the visuals genuinely look really cool, like the fire-nado, it just doesn't have nearly the same impact that the visual effects in tornadoes in the first film did. So I imagine that there are going to be a lot of people that disagree with me on this, since the CGI is nice looking, but I found it to be an element that kind of worked to the film's disadvantage here. Con number 2 is the tone, specifically how low on fun the film is. Again, this is one that's kind of hard to explain, because this is an incredibly entertaining film. I definitely had fun with it, and there were certainly fun and silly and enjoyable moments of humor. But overall, it felt like it was lacking in that endearing sense of joy that the first film had. Now, I know, I shouldn't be constantly comparing it to the original movie, and it should be able to stand alone, and as a sequel, it does succeed in that. But it just didn't get that same strong tonal mix across for me. It felt like everything went into the spectacle aspect that I mentioned on the pro side. So the thrills and the humor and the fun adventure and all the other tonal and genre components that were swirled up in the original Twister just feel severely dampened here. Before I give you my rating and recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying Twisters or any of the other films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. I'm gonna give Twisters 3.5 out of 5 paws. It's a bit overly polished and lacks any actual narrative connection to the first film, but this sequel delivers on action blockbuster spectacle and draws you in with Glen Powell's seemingly never-ending charm and charisma. I would recommend Twisters to fans of modern action blockbusters. This has all the hallmarks and identifiable visual sheen of today's typical blockbuster, but does do a great job of creating an engaging and interesting spectacle. Casual fans of the original Twister will likely get a lot of enjoyment out of this one as well, but big fans may not be as blown away, partly because of the tone, partly because of the CGI, but mostly because of the near total lack of narrative connection to the original film. If you liked Twisters, I would recommend Only the Brave. Directed by Joseph Kosinski, writer of Twisters, this is another natural disaster-based film with some really intense sequences. It's a fictionalized account of the real-life story of the Granite Mountain hotshots as they combat a wildfire in Arizona while trying to protect a small town. If you'd rather go with the fictional weather disaster movie route, you might want to check out Crawl. This film offers an interesting combination of disaster movie and creature feature, as a college swimmer and her father find themselves trapped in a flooding crawl space with alligators during a hurricane. And if you'd prefer to stick with tornadoes, you'll definitely want to watch Twister. Might seem like an obvious choice, considering Twisters is technically its sequel, but it's not really narratively connected and mostly a sequel in name alone. The original Twister offers a lot of things that are lacking in the new film, so it's definitely one to watch or rewatch if you want a great tornado movie. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen Twisters? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what's your favorite movie about severe weather? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information on this review, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe if you're at it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies, the way life should be.